That's not exactly what I was hoping for. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for that Mod Collection Demo Shop update. I hope you're feeling saucy tonight because we're starting things off with Velvet Lingerie. It's an Explorer custom that they went really crazy on. So it's kind of a reverse burst because normally you have a darker border and then a brighter center. But this one has a black center with the red accents on the edge. However, the pickguard was actually done the opposite way in a traditional burst, but you have this lace floral design underneath it, which gives it a dark vibe, but then you get the voodoo style pickups, red and black bobbins to continue with your theme, including your knobs that have red lettering on them. This was pretty fascinating. Looks like they did a similar burst job on the headstock. And then interestingly, they did the design on the back of the neck, but they left the body and headstock alone. So that means while you play it, you'll still see that, so that's pretty cool. And you still got your custom shop case, and how much were they asking? $5,000. For the custom finish, I think that was totally worth it, and it sold instantaneously. But next up here, we have the return of Good Gray, but this time on an 80s Flying V. Now, I told you a couple of weeks ago, I was really excited to see some of these 80s Explorers and Flying Vs get thrown into the demo shop and get really crazy out there finishes. This isn't exactly what I was hoping for, it's just gray. And they threw a Les Paul pickguard on it. It's like the whole point of the 80s V is it doesn't have the pickguard. So it certainly falls into that quirky category now. But hey, at least it was a complete refinish, and it looks nice and it's done up in gloss. Although at $25.99, I feel that one might sit around a bit. But get ready to fall in love with this $345. In what they called Royal Metallic, it's a beautiful blue hue. It works great with our triple layer of binding, chrome hardware, and then our parallelogrammed inlaid neck. So they left the back of the neck a dark bursty color, and then your back is blue, but what are our edges? Unfortunately, I can't quite tell. They'll either be blue or the same color as the back of the neck. And oh, interesting. What have they done here? It looks like maybe there was a cosmetic flaw, so they just extra widened up the binding. Sometimes you get an actual heel cap. It looks like they did something kind of similar to that because normally you don't have binding right there. So that certainly makes this one fascinating. Perhaps that's why it sold quickly. But they also whipped up an SG in a similar finish. They called it Perla Azul this time. It's 64 style with your Maestro Vibrola, Moto pickguard, dark blue finish, chrome hardware, but this one is completely blue on the back. But if bright blue's not your style, how about winter green patina? Kind of reminds me of an aged Pelham blue. And it extra rocks with that vibe because look at those pickup covers. They're very aged looking, whereas our bridge and tailpiece definitely have not had the same treatment. But your knobs are the custom shop age style. Looks like they left our headstock alone, and it was a complete refinish. There was another 50 standard in Tiger Burst. It's kind of similar to what we saw in the early 2000s known as Desert Burst. It's got a pretty nicely flamed top if you like the whole perimeter burst. As an additional it factor, the back is a very dark cherry color and then they threw the black stinger on it. That certainly makes it a little bit more fancy. But there was also one done in Copper Burst, which looks like the old Gold Burst finish from the early 80s, but this time we have no pickup covers on it, and it looks like we've got some sort of a dark back going on here. It's not completely black, you can still see a reddish color coming through, and you can't tell, but if you adjust the contrast, there is a stinger. That's just very hard to see. And then the mod collection had one for the John Lennon fans. Butterscotch Satin Finish USA Casino. Doesn't look like they changed too much other than the finish, because the back is still your natural brown. So a couple of solid choices this week. Now let's check out all of our demo shops, starting with the USA side. I was shocked to see one of these things, a Rick Beato at a discount. Those were $2,000 brand new, but I'm pretty sure they're sold out. They've been selling for premiums on the used market, but you could have scored one for $400 off. So naturally, I had to look through these photos, see what is wrong with this thing. And it's that. A small little flat spot on the binding, which, to be honest, sometimes you'll find that on first quality instruments too. That was a steal of a deal. The next deal was one of those 80s Flying Vs. These things are $2,500 brand new, and you could have just got one for $18. But what was the reasoning? A minuscule scratch up here? Couple of them down here as well. But again, it's an ebony finish, that's to be expected. If you were wanting to buy one of these, that was a good time to get in. They also had an interesting Trans Cherry Les Paul Classic. They had personally modified it so you have an uncovered neck pickup and maybe a black covered bridge. That's quite interesting. And then you've got your ambered over knobs and a Les Paul custom style pickguard. No fancy stingers or anything, but you do have locking tuners. So pretty cool. And this was probably one of the best deals of the week. One of the 10K 58 Carina Explorers for $7,000. So that's a pretty sweet 30% off. It's got some cool bird's eye figuring within it too. Especially on the back. Like this one did pretty good within the wood grain lottery. If you look at the neck, it looks like it also continues into there. Not all Carina will dance like that. Now, as far as why it ended up in the demo shop, there's a couple of scratches down here. Looks like a slight bubbling in the lacquer on our fretboard. But for 30% off, let's just say I wasn't surprised when that thing sold. Because there was also a Flying V at 25% off. Yeah, it's got a little bit of bird's eye around here, but not quite as much as the Explorer. Got an interesting mineral streak going on there. But you know, that one even has a little bit of flame figuring right there. So whenever these two Carinas were made, they had some pretty nice ones. But the big kicker on this one is the way that they create these guitars. You have the back of the body join onto the neck, so sometimes you'll get finish cracking around here. It's structurally sound, it just looks bad. This next one is a little bit of a mystery. So they advertise it as a 70s Flying V ebony tuxedo. And it's got all the usual 70s characteristics, uncovered humbuckers, you've got your pickup rings, you've got the bound neck. They do offer 70s Flying Vs in ebony finish. It's a Gibson.com exclusive. The biggest difference being those are all ebony, whereas this one has the white pickguard. So now we're getting more Kirk Hammett style. But then we get to the headstock and oh, that's the 80s style headstock. What? And they list it as a modification, but you would see other screw holes around here where the big 3-screw truss rod cover would be. So this is like the 70s Flying V body mixed with the 80s neck. So I think there's a bit more to the story on that one than they're letting on, but it's kind of cool in an oddball way, and it's a discount regardless of what model it was. This 50 standard at $2,400 gave me Brazilian Dream vibes. That's probably what they were going for on that mod job. And I was shocked to see another Motoba Wataru SG standard bass. I think it was 2 weeks ago we saw one of these. It's a sparkle white finish, and it was an anime signature Japan exclusive guitar. So it's cool that the USA guys could get a hold of a couple of these. Now we gotta go over to the UK side. The UK shop was busy. They had not one but two uploads this week. I'll argue that their 10K Carina V is one of the nicest I've seen though. So including everything, it's about $7,400. That is a fantastic deal for that market. But look at how perfectly grained this one is. It looks like a fur coat. And maybe it's just the photo stylings that the UK and Netherlands shop have for them. It always seems to accentuate the grains. But even the back is nearly perfect and the neck, very tight grain. This is what people generally want when they're looking for these Carina ones, and they're gonna pay a big premium for a modern day one. But as an additional selling factor, you have not one, not two, but 3 demo stamps on there. There might even be a fourth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm not entirely too sure. I've seen 2, and I've seen some that got stamped mod and demo by mistake, but I've never seen the triple to quadruple stamping. That just makes it kind of funny. And whenever a new demo shop gets introduced, they always have these ES275s. I don't know why. They're pretty cool guitars, but you can check out this review and demo if you want to learn more about one. They had one of the Trad Pro 5s, which I was under the influence that was a Guitar Center exclusive, so I'm not exactly sure what it's doing over in the UK, unless some UK guitar dealer decided to share that with GC. Perhaps this one got sent on the wrong truck and it made a long traveling error. But usually these have these big ugly truss rod covers on them, but this one has been swapped to a blank. Next, we actually had a pretty old one from 2016 in the Fireball finish. Pretty much a rebranding of the Tri-Burst color that's done up in perimeter style. But the thing about the era when this one was created is Gibson USA headstocks were obnoxiously wide and pointy on the edges. So you can always tell when you've got a guitar from this era just by looking at your headstock. Other telltale signs are these infused backplates. But check this thing out, Antiquity Burst, 1960 reissue V1 neck. It's got a pretty nice top, and I've always liked this particular finish. But the reason I wanted to share this one with you is look at that back. So dark, but so grainy. They went way too heavy on the aniline dies, but it kind of works for this one. And it's technically a 60th anniversary model, so that's pretty cool. Although those aren't particularly rare because they made them the entire year, so there's like 2,000 to 4,000 plus. And whenever they go heavy on the dies, you always get the bleeding into the binding. But eventually, that will fade over time. And you don't see one of these every day. A 54 with a burst paint job and a pretty nice flame top. Reminds me of the Hot Mod series. That was pretty nice. And then I was pretty shocked to see one of these. A TV Yellow 57 reissue junior for about 31. That's really good in that market. And now we need to check in with our European friends. Look at all the strings that they've listed. I'm not sure if these are individual listings or if they have multiples of each, but they're definitely having some sort of a string sale. And they also tried their hand at modifying a Les Paul Classic in Satin Iced Tea. They played with our plastics a bit, and bridge and tailpiece, not my favorite, but hey, they're trying. This 50 standard had a ridiculously flame top. You could tell that thing is just going to engulf the room in flames when you're looking at it in person. This 50 standard is also a AAA top, however, it's got a little bit more ringiness to it. And here we have an unassuming Les Paul Classic for about $1,600. I mean, they removed our pickup covers, but the reason I wanted to share this one with you is look at our headstock. We've got some weird tuners. There's the old Schaller style, but it doesn't have the holes from other tuners, so that means it left the factory with them. And then lastly, another modified one. AAA Hand Select Top 50s kind of reminds me of the 1994 Centennial Les Paul, because we got bejeweled knobs, not exactly the same way as those other ones. But the gray pickup rings with the gold hardware really accents this finish, and it's got a nice top, so what's there to complain about? In fact, it takes a really keen eye to see that they actually mixed gold and chrome. So gold, chrome, gold top of the tuners, chrome back with gold accented screws. And then if you look really closely, you've actually got the chrome studs within the body and the posts for the bridge. All right, that ends the recap this week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.